Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today we're going to make a block called First Kiss. It has 4 blocks, identical, that are foundation paper piecing. Really easy, 3 pieces, that's all. And then there's some flying geese, and there is one single square in the middle, which you could fussy cut if you wanted to, if you had a picture of you and your hubby or you and your boyfriend or whatever. So I'm going to show you first the different kinds of paper that you can use for foundation paper piecing. Although a lot of people will use their notebook paper, or they'll use, if they're going to be tracing it on their own, they'll use their printer paper if they make multiples. I have some specific paper which I will show you here, but also I want to show you how I copied it out of the book. So let's say that this is the first time you've made it. You have a picture that you want to copy. You don't have a printer, so we're going to say you don't have a printer, but you have the paper to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace it on a piece of printer paper, and it's going to be a little bit dark, but I can see it, and I use pencil when I do my tracing. All right, let's get started and I'll show you here. This is my pattern in this book. Normally what you do, and I've already done it, so I'm just going to show you based on the paper that I have here. And this ends up being a 4-inch square. This is the full size that I'm using for my project. You can see that I did put it on regular printer paper, and I put 2 of them on there. But the first time around that I traced it, I used this piece of really thin paper. And so let me show you what you do. You put it on top of this, because unless you have a small little light source to put up underneath this page, or you've got some really good eyesight, you're going to have difficulty. I took a ruler. And you have to add your 1/4-inch seam, by the way. So I took my little ruler that I like, and I put it on here. I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm just going to get you all started. You start at one end, you go down to the other. And you do the same thing, all 4 sides. And then from the middle, you put your pencil in the middle and go straight up to the edge, which makes this one, which is number 2. This is number 1, and you label them at number 3. Now, to add the 1/4-inch, put your ruler on the 1/4-inch line, which is my yellow one. I put it directly on it, and in this case, I went a 1/4-inch from the seam this direction, and then this way I know that it will overlap when it comes down to marking it, just like that. Then when I go the next time around, I put it on the seam, just like before, my yellow line, because I know that's where it's at, and I start at the corner and go up. The advantage of using pencil is if I go over it, I can always erase it. And that's how I got it. Then what you could do is you could actually take this with your light box, put a piece of printer paper on the top of it, and create your template. Now I'm going to show you the different kind of foundation paper I have. So I had bought a package of this. Now this is quite expensive, this translucent vellum, but I had to buy it to use it. It's all I could get at the time. Then I have this, which actually doesn't have any kind of name on it, because what I was trying to find was the vellum that came off of the website. I just got on Google and websited some foundation paper piecing, some really thin, lightweight. And then I noticed this, which is Leave It In wash away stabilizer sheets. I haven't used this yet. So these are the 3 along with your notebook paper. So let me show you what I did. Was I took my sheet, I put it in my printer. Let me show you this one here first. So this is the vellum, and you can tell how thin it is. There's hardly anything to it at all. Then the next sheet, which was the cheap off of the website, I can't barely see it now. Let me put it up against, I went ahead and I used them the most because they are the cheapest. So I printed those out, and this is 3 sheets of them together. Then the one that is the Leave It In tearaway, it also can be put into your printer. That's this one here. See the paper edges at the top? You don't have to tear this apart when you're done. Put your whole quilt together, wash it, and this literally dissolves in the wash. And then there was my sheet. If you have to go with your paper and you need to use typing paper because you don't have anything else, that's fine also. Here's all my fabric cut out. I put it on my design board. I just put this purple fabric on. It's just a fat quarter so that you can see the colors on it because it's white. And then here's my paper. And so let's go ahead and get started on our block. Now we're going to do the flying geese. And you want to take your square, this is the 2.5 inch square, and you want to mark it diagonally. Then we're going to put it down on our fabric like this, and then we're going to sew it from this corner to this corner down here. Okay, I'm just using white thread. I'm not going to put any kind of pins or anything in mine. I'm using 2.5 inch length. I'm going to go ahead and do the other 4, the ones with the pink. The color that I used was considered red. I just didn't want to use an actual red fabric because I like these fabrics. Mark all the pink ones also. And if you put it up in the corner, then you know you've positioned it wrong. It needs to go coming in the middle right here. Go ahead and finish all yours up. And then I'll be back when I'm done to start the next process. And I'll explain it to you for all those that are new. Now this is where you're at. You've got them all done. This is strictly for those that are new, just joining in. You want to go ahead, before you do anything else, you want to go ahead and you want to cut 1/4 inch off. You can use your scissors or you can use your rotary cutter. Then you're going to take it to your ironing board. You're going to flip it and you're going to press it. Then we're going to come back. We're going to take this one here. Make sure you've pressed it. We're going to put it in that corner. We're putting our line that we drew. Let me get a little closer to the camera here. So the line that we drew on our fabric is going to go up at the top left. This is the nose of the goose. And we will sew down to the bottom. Then we will take 1/4 inch off here. And then when we're done, we will open it up and iron it, and we will have our goose. So let's go ahead and do that right now before we sew these on. Now while you're sewing these, which is the second side, which is your left-hand wing of the goose, that it's easier to not start at this point down here, which sometimes your plate, the fabric will go down inside the plate, and you can use a leader ender if you want, but sometimes it doesn't work. So I always start up there at the tip of the goose and come down, and then do each one like that. Hopefully my hands aren't in the way. I feel like I gotta steady this because it is so small. I'm used to making larger flying geese. And just put one in right after the other. That's all there is to it. And then when we connect this flying goose to the other, it's going to be the nose to the bottom of it. And then I'll give you a little trick for those that haven't been on my channel for a while or haven't seen it. So go ahead and finish all these up. We'll come back, we'll cut them, we'll iron them open. So this is what my piece looks like when it's finished. This is the paper piecing. And I'm only going to show you how to do this. I'm not going to be teaching it, so I'm going to show you the way that I do it. First thing you want to do is you want to get your paper down here. I have the green piece and the 2 white pieces. The first thing you do is you take your paper and you're going to make sure that you can read it. You're going to take your fabric and you're going to face it downward, and you're going to put your paper on top just like that. So it's all on there. We're going to put a pin right here in the middle. Then I'm going to show you what to do. Alrighty, now you can see that. Now I'm going to take my paper, because this is number 1, this is number 2. So you put your fabric number 1 on here. If you didn't have the biggest piece as I have, I went ahead and cut out the whole square, the whole size of this. Then what you want to make sure is that you've got 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on this side of your fabric, and you want it to come off of your paper. And the reason being is that you're going to have this 1/4 inch, so it's got to come beyond that 1/4 inch for your fabric. Now I take the first one and I fold over on line number 2, because that's the sewing line next. So just slowly, and it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to see it on the other side here. Just as the best that you can. Alrighty. And then what I do is I go ahead and I take my ruler and I'm going to take off I'm going to leave on 1/4 of an inch where that fold is at. So what I did was I cut the fabric off, but this is the 1/4 inch right here. I'm going to turn this back over. I'm going to take my next piece of fabric, which is the white fabric, and I want it to fold over when I'm done sewing it. I want it to be like this. So I take this, make sure it fits on there, and I'll do a sample first. So I pretend I've sewn it on there. I take it, fold it over, see if it will cover all of my paper. It does, so that is correct. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. Now, if you want to, if this is your first time and you feel a little bit scared, then go ahead and put a pin in. I'll show you. It's not going to hurt anything to put a pin in here. Put it, I don't know if I can get it to work like that. So that's holding your fabric. Just to get it over here to the sewing machine, because we're going to flip it over like this and we're going to sew it down that line that you just folded on. Now you can see this has not shifted any. It's still there. I still got the pin down here. I take my length and decrease it. Now I'm not going out here to my 1/4 inch outer part of my fabric. I'm coming up to the line that it's actually at. So don't accidentally sew your seam in there, or your seam shut. So I start right at the edge. I take my length down to 1.6, and it's going to be your preference depending on what you're using for your foundation. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this pin out because I don't need it in. This is not scooting, moving, or anything else. And I'm going to slowly sew all the way to the end, and I'm going down this line right here. If you feel like your line is too faint in the pencil, then you can make it in something else. I'm going to come right down to the point. And if you feel like you need an open toe foot to see it, then you can use an open toe foot. I lift this up, I look, I can make one more stitch. I'm finished. And then I cut it and take it out. Therefore, now you have this. That's what it looks like. Take it, finger press it. That's all I'm going to do is finger press it right now. And then I'm going to do the same thing to this side. So I'm taking it, I'm folding it over. Putting a crease down here. Taking my next piece of white, getting it ready. And remember now, I'm taking a 1/4 inch off of here. What I'm doing is I'm actually creating my seam. So make sure your ruler goes from end to end. So I take off this, fold it back, and now I'm going to repeat the process. Remember, I want the good to be facing downward from edge to edge. If you need to put a pin in there, you can. I won't need one. I'm going to take it right over to the sewing machine, just like this, and repeat the process from that corner all the way down to here. Alrighty, here's what it looks like. And we're going to flip it over. We're going to press it open. We can take our pin out. We don't need it anymore. And now what we're going to do is take it over to the iron and actually iron this open flat, because we're going to have to cut all the way around the outer edge to get our square. Now I went ahead and ironed it, and when you iron it, it's going to have a tendency to fold on you, which is fine. No problem there. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it out and make my square. So I just line up my lines. Just take my time. This is my 1/4 inch seam. And normally what I do with my pieces is I lay them in a book Usually I don't sew it together, so I put them in a book, but we will be sewing this together, so. And there you go. There's your block. And we can put a book on it to press it down until we get ready to put the whole thing together, because we'll be sewing our flying geese next. Go ahead and make all of yours, and they'll all be done. Here's the two of them right there. Now it's time to put our flying geese together, and they need to go like this. The pink is going on the bottom, and the reason being that our square, we're going to have these geese all along this. So that's how you keep it straight in your mind. You want to put the pink, whatever you've chosen, if it's not pink, and you want to connect it to this. And we're going to connect it like that. But here's the trick that I was talking to you about if you haven't followed my channel. We don't want to take our nose off. So what we want to do is we want to mark our fabric so that we can make sure we don't take the tip. So we're going to look down here. Alrighty, so here's the tip. I went ahead and I colored with this pen my stitch because you can't see it against the white fabric. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your marker, whatever you got, you're going to come right on the spot that these two pieces of thread intersect, and you're going to make a line. And then when you sew this, you're going to come down your 1/4 inch, and you're going to make sure that you're on this side of that line. If you go on the line, you're on the point, which is not what you want. All right, and this way it will keep your tip from being taken off. So let's do that. All right, there it is right there. You can see I did not take off the tip. If you want to come closer, take it back, sew it a little bit closer. It's up to you, but I like it the way it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to iron it open and do the other 3. You guys go ahead and do it, and we'll meet back here when we're done. Now this is the way it's going to look. It's going to have that pow of green coming in, and we're going to sew it by rows. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the top row, then the middle row, and then this row. And when it comes time to do this, we're going to do the same thing. When we flip it over, we're going to mark that tip, and when we attach it to that, we're going to be careful when we sew across there, okay? So let's go ahead and connect the rows. I forgot to say, let's peel the paper off. So this should be really, really easy to peel off. All you do is just like that. That's how easy it is. And I want to peel it off before I actually sew it, because on this one, I want my white fabric to be going towards the green. So I'm going to re-iron it because we need nestle on our fabric. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. Alrighty, these 2 pieces are going to nestle. So when I flip this, I want the green to come down this way to match right here, because we have to nestle these. Okay, this is what you have before you sew the 3 rows together. They're not sewn together. We're going to sew them together now, one at a time. Be sure and mark the tips on this one and that one. Alrighty, so the reason that I've come back is to show you that I had to mark here and here. So that's 2 on this side. But notice my pin is the other direction because there's 1 on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all the way down to here and stop. Start up here and go all the way down to the end. Flip it over. So everything will be sewn, but right in here. And then just sew this. And then I'll have all 3 strips sewn. And then we'll take a look at it. Okay, there it is. It really looks nice, and that green really does pop. I'm very, very happy with it. Now, my points, and I'm talking about the green, are not exact, but after all, this block is called First Kiss. And was anybody's first kiss perfect? I don't think so. So I want to thank everybody for watching my videos. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the little bell to get notified of my upcoming videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.